So, have you ever heard of the stand your ground law?
No.
Based on the name, what do you think that it might mean?
It's like it's a law. You have to stay wherever you are. Like if you have a restraining order and you can't like go nowhere else. And if you have a home law, that's what I think it means.
Okay. Well, thank you for answering.
Do not help.
Have you ever heard of the stand your ground law?
Yes. Wait, no.
No. Based on the name, what do you think it means?
You said the word again.
Stand your ground law.
Oh, it means like when you feel threatened, you should have a right to tell or fight. Well, defend yourself, and you should also have the right to like, if they want to like go to court, you can like have like a defense of what they did to you. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So, have you ever heard of the stand your ground law?
No.
No.
Is that like self-defense?
Yeah. So, yeah, based on the name, like, what do you think?
That if you're in danger or somebody's like messing with you, you're allowed to stand up for yourself.
Okay. Based on that knowledge, you think the law is fair? Why not?
Well, if that's what it is, then yeah. 'Cause I think that everybody should be able to defend themselves. Yeah, with everything, especially if that's, I don't know if that has to do with property, but if it's like your house, then yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Have you ever heard of the stand your ground law?
Yes, I have.
Really? So, what do you know about it? What is it?
The stand your ground law, I believe from what I've been taught, or just from what I can recall from what I've been taught, is whenever you're in a situation where the person may not feel too comfortable, the person feels threatened by a bystander, by anyone, as opposed to trying to simply just fighting back in self-defense or just sitting there to take the assault or to run away or any other solution you can think of, what that person can do now is stand their ground in that situation, hence the name stand your ground law. But they can stand their ground in a situation and be able to defend themselves. For example, if they would have a weapon, they can stand their ground and retrieve their own weapon that they may have on themselves to defend themselves, and possibly maybe even having to shoot somebody, a perpetrator or an offender. So some people, they view it as really a stand your ground law, as in being able to execute people at the moment's notice that you feel threatened, you feel intimidated. You can really take advantage of that law in many different ways. And so,
Do you feel like it's a fair law, or like you think
I do feel as though it needs to be revised. It has to be revised because there's too many people who can get away with that, with the stand your ground law. When you look at the logistics of it and how it works, the mechanics of it, there's a lot of flaws in it. And so that's just gonna open doors to a lot of people using the stand your ground law, using the stand your ground defense for many things that they may end up doing intentionally to other people or as a justification for shooting someone.
Thank you so much for your answer.
Welcome.
In September 2013, Mayors Against Illegal Guns released Shoot First, a comprehensive review of stand your ground laws and how they affect public safety and the criminal justice system. The report explains how stand your ground statutes have expanded the circumstances in which people are allowed to use deadly force and have created legal hurdles that make it harder to hold shooters accountable. A Mayors Against Illegal Guns analysis of FBI data indicates that stand your ground states experienced a striking increase in the number of justifiable homicides committed by private citizens in the years following the law's enactment. Other research indicates that this increase is not the result solely of more homicides being classified as justifiable, but also as an overall increase in homicides. In Florida alone, 26 children and teens were killed in stand your ground cases. Trayvon Martin and Jordan Davis were 2 of 26 children and teens killed in Florida stand your ground cases, according to a Tampa Bay Times breakdown by age and race. The Urban Institute also examined racial disparities in justified gun homicide rulings that involve a single shooter and victim who are strangers. The researchers found that when white shooters kill black victims, 34% of the resulting homicides are deemed justifiable, while only 3.3% of deaths are ruled justifiable when the shooter is black and the victim is white.
The stand your ground law has some pros to it, such as citizens having the right to protect themselves if they feel threatened. It also protects the Second Amendment right to bear arms. People are able to protect their right as American citizens to be able to protect themselves and their property. People are also able to defend themselves without the fear of being prosecuted.
So some cons to stand your ground policy includes it permits an individual the ability to use deadly force. It encourages violence, and according to the National Urban League, reports show that the stand your ground law on average has experienced a 53% increase. Now, that's a huge number. Furthermore, when it comes to evidence brought up in court on these self-defense cases, how can someone really prove that the action was deadly force or self-defense? So that's an argument that always comes up. How do you know if somebody's actually really defending themselves, or they're using this law, or they're abusing this law and saying that it's self-defense, but it's actually not? And then lastly, African Americans tend to be victimized by this law.
Now I'm going to talk about the inpatient camp and how they would improve the stand your ground law. The inpatient camp want more change within our society and want to de-emphasize the current belief of individualism. They believe that there is no single solution to conflicts within our society. So politicians should strive for diversity when creating policies. Based on these beliefs, the inpatient camp would approach the problems of the stand ground law by making sure the law is fair to all individuals, regardless of current background and beliefs.
Hey everybody, my name is Shannon Cochran and I'm going to educate you on the Concern Camp worldview on the Stand Your Ground law. So the Concern Camp values healthy family structures such as parental commitment, marital fidelity, individual responsibility, and civic participation. The Concern Camp worldview would want the Stand Your Ground law to be repealed because it disrupts the family structure by causing injuries and deaths. The solution to the Stand Your Ground law controversy would be to reverse the law back to the duty to retreat law. This would allow individuals to be responsible for retreating from imminent danger before shooting first and asking questions later. Again, my name is Shannon Cochran, and you have just been educated.
Hello everyone, my name is Steve Dorson. I'm here to speak to you about the worldview Satisfied Camp in regards to the policy Stand Your Ground. Satisfied Camp views changes to the policy as an indicator for a family's ability to adapt to new conditions. Satisfied Camp views the Stand Your Ground policy as a way to create safety for families. Changes in the policy illustrates much progression. This particular camp finds that shifts in policy can ultimately lead to positive consequences for families. If parents were to feel threatened based off the law, they should have the ability and the right to protect their families from harm. America's self-defense laws show that their values to protect yourself has not changed, but the behavior has. This camp would ask Congress to keep the law, being that Americans should have the right to protect themselves. The Satisfied Camp is very individualistic and finds greater institutional support through Stand Your Ground. Thank you.
After hearing from all three camps, it can be concluded that self-defense is essential for family safety. So after looking at the inpatient camp, the concerned camp, and the satisfied camp, we all collectively agreed that this previous law of duty to retreat would be ideal. So the duty to retreat means you cannot resort to deadly force in a self-defense case if you can safely avoid the risk or harm of an individual. So essentially, you would want to run away, you would want to retreat. So you would eliminate yourself from a situation first. And if the person continues to proceed and go ahead with a violent action, then you go ahead and react with self-defense, which is essentially, it would be the last resort. You may not use this duty to retreat if you are safely in your own home. That's the only drawback. In order to prevent, the main takeaway, or I guess you could say the true paradox for the Stand Your Ground law, we all realize that we want to prevent death or great bodily harm to an individual. So utilizing a law like duty to retreat, individuals are unable to use great bodily harm. Instead, they're trying to retreat. They're trying to get away from a situation that would cause them to be violent, if that makes sense. And of course, we have to go ahead and acknowledge the Second Amendment, meaning the right to bear arms. We want citizens to be able to protect themselves if they're feeling threatened. However, it shouldn't automatically result to great bodily harm. You want to defend yourself. You do not want to kill somebody. So, in the best interest of families and making sure like family structures and the stability of families are still intact, we can go ahead and implement this duty to retreat. We can go ahead and reintroduce this law to where individuals are preventing death from happening or preventing great bodily harm, because we know how a death of an individual or a trauma event for someone within the family, it can break up and kind of like destabilize the structure of a family. So it's important to look at the bigger picture and realize how a law like this can affect a family. Okay, so some cons to the Stand Your Ground policy. It permits you to use
I think. Yeah, you can cut the last